Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Got Next podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell Baldwin, with my co-host, Donovan Moore.
What's going on, fellas? How we feeling, man?
Feeling great, man. It's week five. Week five already, man. Crazy. What's up? Say what's up, B.
What's up, yo? Yeah, week 5, first month of the season's gone by pretty fast. We got like 3 more quarters to go, and we're talking playoffs. That just goes by faster and faster each year.
Yep, already, man. It's pretty crazy to believe. But yeah, week 4 was pretty crazy. We got a lot of stuff to react and talk about. Looking forward to next week as well. So make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, all that type of stuff, and follow the socials at the God Next Podcast on Instagram and TikTok as well. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the intro.
Three-pointers. Outside jumper from three at the bucket.
All righty. So before we get into this week's matchups, we'll be announcing the teams that are on buys. The first week of buy this week. We got the Eagles on a buy, the Chargers, the Lions, and the Titans. So if you play fantasy football, set your lineups accordingly. First matchup, Thursday night, tomorrow night, we have the Bucks at the Falcons. Both teams have looked good in some weeks, bad in some other weeks. B, who's going to come out on top, Pauls, in this matchup?
I'm going to pick the Bucks in this matchup just because I trust their consistency a little bit more. Their defense, other than the Broncos game, has shown a lot this year. And I think Baker Mayfield's confidence is as high as it's ever been. You can tell based on, the little shade he's thrown at Tom Brady. And, Mike Evans is Mike Evans as always. And the Falcons seem to be that team that's just, win-loss or loss-win, whatever pattern you want to choose. Not to say that that's not this division, because it's been that way for the last few years, but I just think the Bucs are riding a little more higher than the Falcons right now, and they're a bit more confident and consistent, which I think makes the difference.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna go with the Buccaneers as well, because as we mentioned probably every week when discussing the NFC South team, it's just such an up and down division. The Falcons came off a last-second win versus Saints last week, but I think the Bucs are the better team here. They're strong defensively, and Baker, since he's been in Tampa, has been playing solid football. So I'm gonna go with Tampa Bay as well.
Same thing. I think I'm also going to go with Tampa Bay here. While the Falcons, they seem to have all the weapons on offense. They just don't know how to use them, and it's kind of obvious at this point. Kyle Pitts put up a whopping 0 goose egg last week in fantasy. And was it Bijan Robinson? He had Tyler Algier was getting a lot of snaps last week as well. So it seems like that wasn't just an Arthur Smith thing. It seems like that's just going to be a thing going forward. It's not going to be all Bijan, which is really interesting, with the prospect that he is. So, yep, ultimately, I think the Bucs also have some good weapons too. Bucky Irving starting to step up a little bit. Rashad White looked a lot better last week. So, ultimately going to go with the Bucs in this matchup. Next up, this one is actually one of the harder ones to predict. Again, some teams that have been up and down. The Jets, highlight of the season was beating the Patriots so far. So will they have another highlight this week after the pitiful performance they had last week against the Broncos?
This game's actually also being played in London, and I'm going to pick the Vikings in this one. I just think Jets offense looked a bit dry last week, and I think it had to do with the conditions and, being on a neutral site. I think the Vikings are playing more confident, and their defense is putting up numbers. They have a tremendous scheme, getting after quarterbacks left and right. And Sam Darnold's confident that both those receivers are going off, Jefferson and Addison. Obviously, Jay Jett is probably the best receiver in the league, but Addison's a dirty number 2, and they got weapons all over, and they're playing confident. So I'm definitely going to roll the Vikings in this one. I do think the Jets are one of those teams who are in the mix for Devontae Adams, and I do think that would improve their team, especially because of the chemistry he and Aaron Rodgers have. But at this point, it's hard to bet against the Vikings.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree. It's hard for me to go against the Vikings right now just with the football they've been playing. I mean, they've beaten some solid teams on the way to this 4-0 start they have. The Jets, their defense has shown up week in and week out. I just feel like offensively they still have some things they need to figure out, but the Vikings, as you mentioned, they're a strong defensive team. Brian Flores has been just excellent for them so far this year. So I'm going to go with the Vikings, but I think this game will be a fairly close one.
I feel like the Jets have to win this one, right? But the Vikings really are hot right now. But I keep saying it, man. I feel like Sam Darnold is due for a bad game. Like, I feel like it's gonna happen. So I'm like, against the Jets defense, Sauce Gardner, you got some other guys there. I'm gonna go with the Jets in this matchup. Even though I haven't really seen a whole lot to make me pick them in this matchup, but yeah, I just think the Vikings will eventually come down to earth, and the Jets just have too much talent. I do feel like they'll be able to get this one here. Next up, the Panthers, man, looking like an actual offense. And then the Bears, Caleb Williams, still going through the ups and downs of a rookie year. B, who's going to come out on top in this matchup? Pause.
I'll pick the Bears just because I feel like they're a team that's playing well at home, not so well on the road. I do think Caleb Williams, he's going to have his up and down plays each week because he's still learning the offense and learning how to be a pro. And obviously, you can see the difference on the Panthers side of Andy Dalton versus Bryce Young. Andy Dalton is a pro who isn't being taught how to play the position, even though he's very mid. He's not being taught how to play. He knows how to play quarterback in the NFL. So good for them for making that adjustment, but it will not be enough to beat the Bears this week. Bears have a really good defense, and expect Caleb to, continue to get better.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Bears as well, just strictly off their supporting cast. DeAndre Swift, it looks like he came to life last week. And the Bears defensively, I believe they lead the league in turnovers forced. So they find a way to make plays and give the ball back to their offense, give them extra possessions. So I think Chicago will win at home just strictly off their defense. And I think they'll start relying more on the ground game to let Caleb Williams get more comfortable. So I'll take Chicago in this one.
Yep, definitely going to repeat that sentiment there as far as the Bears run game. I think that they had their best week last week. DeAndre Swift looked unstartable. It looked really bad in these past weeks, and then goes out, gives you 30 fantasy points. He was a beast this last week. So, and then their passing attack has looked pretty good. They just got Keenan Allen back last week as well. So I feel like they have all the weapons there. The Panthers defense doesn't scare me too much. I feel like the Bears should be able to kind of get what they want here, but it should be a hard-fought game. I feel like the Panthers aren't just giving up wins as like they were earlier in the season, and since Andy Dalton's been behind center. So ultimately going to rock with the Bears in this matchup. Now, this is a great matchup here. Two teams that have kind of underperformed. I mean, the Ravens looking a lot better recently. Kind of the same with the Bengals, but they did play the Panthers. So who do you have in this interdivisional matchup?
I'm going to unfortunately go with the Ravens. Just watching the Bengals defense this year makes it hard to believe they can put up a good fight against the Ravens offense that's figuring their stuff out right now, especially, the lethal duo that Lamar and Derrick Henry appear to be. Can't cheat on either of them when you're a defense, and it's going to be real hard for the Bengals to keep even on the scoreboard with them, I believe. It is a division matchup, though, so, Bengals could come to play. Hopefully they do, but the Ravens have had their number when healthy, so I think they continue this time around.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Ravens as well. Defensively, Cincinnati, I don't think has what it takes to win this game, because we saw a few weeks ago when they played Washington how Washington controlled the clock running the football, and although the Bengals were able to score points, ultimately it came down to they couldn't get that stop. So going against a division rival that has Derrick Henry and Lamar at that looking like they're starting to catch their stride, as you mentioned, B. So their offense is looking pretty unstoppable almost to a certain extent. So I'm going to go with the Ravens as well. It looks like they're hitting their stride after that 0-2 start, and I think they'll continue to elevate from here.
Do the Bengals make the playoffs?
If they start 1-4, that's tough.
Rough.
In that division, but I mean, it's not like anybody else has really kind of started hot other than the Steelers in that division either. So, I mean, it's still possible, but yeah, ultimately, I'm going to go with the Ravens here, too. That's kind of why I was asking, because I feel like the Bengals will be 1-4 after this week, after what I've seen from the Ravens recently. I think that Derrick Henry looks great. I thought he was washed. So, that's not looking like too good of a take these days. But, yeah, looks like he's doing pretty good. I need Zay Flowers to kind of pick it up and do some things, so I think he might be able to do that this week. Next up, another great matchup, back-to-back, man. The Bills and the Texans. I'll probably be paying, pretty good attention to this game. Josh Allen coming off of that loss against the Ravens. I know he's looking to avenge it. Who's going to win this matchup, B?
Well, this matchup has entertainment written all over it. You see Stephon Diggs going to get a crack at his former team. big, highly anticipated matchup. Is going to mean a lot to the winner. And losers of this game should still obviously make the playoffs. These are two playoff teams, but I'm going to go with the Texans just because I think Bills, were really good at the beginning of the year, but I think they just, hit their struggles maybe a little early this time of year. They're definitely going to make it a more competitive game. It should be really close. Should come down to the end. I just think the Texans being at home, they're going to make that extra play towards the end to come out victorious. And I think, that'll ignite a fire in the Bills moving forward. But just think, last week, like the first week, they lost by more than 6 in over like 2 years. So they definitely got checked. But I think they go on a little losing streak here and have to recover.
I'm actually going to go with the Bills in this one. I think they're going to bounce back this week. That was kind of – I expected the Ravens to win last week, but I didn't expect them to blow Buffalo out. So I'm going to take Buffalo this week. I think the Texans, they kind of skated by versus the Jaguars last week, kind of took advantage of some mistakes that Jacksonville made instead of them more so taking control of the game, in my opinion. So I think it will be a very close game, but I see Buffalo winning. And I still think Houston has some things to figure out offensively. Although they have the talent, they still have yet to get Tank Dell kind of involved. They still have a few other weapons. I feel like they can be getting involved a little more than Diggs and Collins. So I'm going to take the Bills this week, but this will be an excellent game.
I think ultimately I'm going to go with the Texans here as well. I do like what the Bills have put together so far this year, but I just think the Texans are a more complete team than the Bills are. I love their receiving core. I love their just offense in general. Love their QB and stuff. I feel like they'll be able to execute and get that dub at home this week. Donovan just talked about them. The Jags, they're going up against the Colts. They'll be hosting them, actually. Two pretty mid teams here. The Jags have not had a win this season, I believe. So will their first win of the season come against the Colts?
I believe it will because there's a statistic they haven't lost to the Colts at home since 2014. So that's kind of their magic, matchup. Even Trevor Lawrence's rookie year where he was terrible, they beat the Colts the last game of the year to knock them out of playoff contention. They just know how to beat Indianapolis at home. It's one of those curses. And I think with Doug Peterson's seat as warm as it is, they come out victorious here.
I'm going to go with the Jags as well. I don't know if Anthony Richardson is playing or not, but I know the Colts have really been up and down this year. And the Jaguars, they were on the doorstep of winning last week against Houston. Like I said, they kind of shot themselves in the foot. So I think they will beat Indianapolis this week at home.
Yeah, I feel like if AR was playing and actually looked good at any part of this season, I probably would pick the Colts, but that just hasn't happened. And, Joe Flacco actually didn't look bad last week. I mean, it looked like he could actually get Michael Pittman the ball. So I know some fantasy owners were happy about that. But, I think that I think the Jags will be able to get the dub here, and they absolutely need it. Probably the two teams here that need it more. So I'm going to go with the Jags. Next up, man, the Dolphins are one of the worst. These are two of the worst teams in the NFL. Offensively, I think this has 6-3 written all over it. B, who's going to have 6? Who's going to have 3?
I'm going to give the Patriots a 6 here. I just think they're playing a little more competitively right now. The Dolphins are just getting blown out in all their games. I guess Tua is not that great, but that good of a quarterback because they're moving the ball really well when he's there, when they're playing, worse teams. And, they can't even get on the scoreboard with the squad they have right now. Tyler Huntley doesn't really know the offense yet because he just got there. But even that alone, Tyreek Hill isn't getting the ball because these quarterbacks can't get him the ball. So it's kind of sad to watch. The Patriots actually, I think, might have a almost mid defense, but against the Dolphins, that would be a good defense, to be honest with you. So, I mean, I have no confidence in either of these teams, but I'm going to go with the Patriots because they're at home and the Dolphins, are struggling to score.
I'm going to take the Patriots as well. I actually do like the Patriots defense. They're strong defensively. Even though the Niners put up 30 on them last week, I believe Jacoby Brissett threw a pick 6. They had maybe 2 to 3 turnovers. So the Patriots' problem is really their offense, in my opinion. Defense has never really been a New England issue. So I think defensively, that's what's going to carry them to this game. And I think Ramondre Stevenson will also be a key as well. The Patriots probably just going to try to control the clock, keep the speed of the Dolphins off the field. So at home, I like New England to win this one.
Yeah, I think the New England defense is good. It's been good pretty consistently, even after the Belichick situation. So Yeah, I'm going with the Patriots. There's just no reason why I could pick the Dolphins. Kind of what the Dolphins are doing this season is quite despicable, if I'm being honest. It really needs to be investigated by the NFL. I mean, are they trying to win games at this point? I mean, you put Tyler Huntley out there. Well, first of all, Tua goes down. You have no legit backup. He's probably the most injury-prone QB in the NFL. How do you have no legit backup behind him? Then you bring in Skylar Thompson. He gets injured in the next game where he's starting. You bring out Tim Boyle. He's a geriatric at this point. And then Tyler Huntley comes over and trash. Like literally, like you can barely put up 14 points. You've just been struggling the whole time. You can't get the ball to Tyreek. The Dolphins look bad. Like it's really bad. They should have brought in a QB once Tua went down, but now you're just kind of on a QB carousel waiting for Tua to come back. And like, is Tua going to save this team? Like, if they keep losing games, what's the point of bringing Tua back in the first place? So it really doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, the Dolphins are trash. I'm going to pick up the Patriots here, and I'm still starting Tyreek, unfortunately, because of an injury I had. We'll be talking about that later. Next up, Dono, another big win for your Commanders, man. Jaden Daniels is real. How do you feel about the team this week going up against the Browns and the fraudulent Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be an interesting game. I mean, we're on a 3-game winning streak right now, but just with Washington, I feel like this game is kind of going to be like the real tester. Cleveland's been down. They lost to the Giants and the Raiders team that they probably should have beat these past few weeks. So this is a game that looks like on paper Washington should win. This is just one of those testament type of games to see what type of team this will be, what type of year this will be. I think this could really show the trajectory of what this team will be. But at the same time, Deshaun Watson's only good game since he's been in Cleveland, I believe, was against Washington like a year or so ago, or maybe like a year and a half ago, and they beat Washington. So, man, I might go Cleveland. I might go Cleveland because they're strong defensively, and I'm kind of nervous to still put my faith in Washington. That's my team to the end, but like this is like a testament type of game. Like this is a game Washington should win, but will they win? It's kind of my question right now. So I'm riding with the home team in my heart, but with you guys, I'm going with Cleveland. Man. I got the Browns to win this one. I think it could be close though.
Yeah, I think it has trap game written all over it, but I mean, it'd be hard to not respect what Washington's doing right now and the confidence they're playing with. So I'm gonna pick them till they lose, honestly.
Yeah, man, I'm going with the best team in the NFC East, man. I called it low-key before the season. I said, don't be shocked if the Commanders are better than the Cowboys. And little did I know, they'd be better than every other team in the division. I'm going with the Commanders, man. I'm going with Jaden Daniels all the way. I think Brian Robinson's been really good. Austin Eckler's looked really good, honestly. Terry McLaurin has come alive, in the last couple of weeks. So, yeah, I'm riding with the Commanders, especially at home. They're going to get some great support from the fans. Y'all are winning again, man. It's really good, man. It's a really good thing to see, honestly. So next up, we got the Devontae Adams-less Raiders going up against the Broncos. Devontae already is not playing. It's announced he's not playing this week. So he's looking forward to the trade. I don't know where he's going to go, but the Raiders won't have him. That's all I know. So are they going to be able to get that dub against the Broncos on the road?
I think they will, because I think the Raiders are one of those teams that like they're going to win games. Ever since they've had Antonio Pierce, they've like won games that they're not expected to win, and kind of lost games that they're possibly expected to win. So, I think they've beaten Denver like several straight times. I think Bo Nix being a rookie still. I know they just got the 2-2, but I think they're going to be very inconsistent. And I do think the Raiders sort of play with a chip on their shoulder. And I do think they still have some playmakers on that team to make them, competitive. So I'm going to go with the Raiders here.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to take the Raiders as well. They're just such an up and down team. They're kind of like the West Coast Falcons in a sense. They'll win games, you're like, how'd they win that? And then they'll lose games, you're like, how'd you lose to them? So I'm going to take the Raiders in this one. I believe Max Crosby should be back. The Broncos coming off 2 straight wins. I feel like they're kind of hitting a stride here maybe, but at the same time, like you mentioned, the Raiders these are both 2 weird teams. So I'm going to take the Raiders, but this is really like a toss-up in my opinion.
It is definitely a toss-up, and that's why ultimately I'm going with the Broncos, man. The Raiders' passing attack is going to be trash without Devontae Adams. It's Jacoby Myers. Brock Bowers is really good, but again, he's a tight end. He's not going to be running too many routes, away from the line of scrimmage. I think the Broncos have shown some signs here, man. They got some decent players. Cortland Sutton's kind of coming alive here. And he's a decent target. I feel like, Sean Payton's decent. I feel like I can lean more on the Broncos defense a little bit more than anything the Raiders have to offer on offense or defense. So I'm going to go with the Broncos in this matchup. It is, a toss-up, and it can go either way. So we'll see how that goes. After the Cardinals laid an egg against the Commanders last week at home, 42-14, anybody picking the Cardinals this week?
It'll be closer than what the score was
close.
last week against Washington, but I still got San Francisco.
But will it?
I think it'll be close because it's a division game, but Cardinals are untrustworthy.
Yeah, for sure untrustworthy, man. I started Kyler Murray, and he was trash. 14-42 against the Commanders. Like, honestly, if you would have said going into that would happen, I would have said you were crazy. I would have said that the score would have been flip-flopped. It would have been the exact opposite. So just crazy that that's the way it came out. And yeah, I can't pick the Cardinals this week. Absolutely not. Next up, two teams that are just kind of, they're kind of middling a little bit. I feel like the offense, could be good this week. But B, who are you picking in this matchup?
I'm going to pick the Packers just because I think the Rams are a little hopeless with the squad they got right now. I know they played their hearts out against the Niners, and Niners in some ways kind of gave them that game. But I just do think the Packers, are fighting a little harder and have more to offer.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Packers as well. I feel like Jordan Love last week was kind of pressing. That's why I took the Vikings. I just feel like he was pressing last week. He didn't really have that mobility back from that knee injury, but he caught stride late in the game, like towards the mid to late third and in that fourth quarter. So I'll take the Packers this week. I think they'll be better with Jordan Love removed from his injury. And can Josh Jacobs finally score a touchdown? That's my other thing. When is Josh Jacobs going to get in the end zone? They paid him big money. So I really want to see Josh Jacobs do well. And I think this is a perfect game for him to bounce back against the Rams, who just let up, 100-plus yards to DeAndre Swift last week. So I got the Packers.
And I have Josh Jacobs in fantasy, man, and like it's honestly that he keeps getting out scripted. Like, honestly, he was rushing really well last week, but then it's like once the team goes down by so much, we're not running the ball. Like, we got to keep throwing the ball. So it's like he's been efficient. He still gets targets and stuff like that, but like just hasn't really worked out so far. And honestly, I hope the Packers can just kind of put it all together this week. I think this is a great opportunity to kind of get right game for them. Rams don't have all of their weapons necessarily. Their defense has been very vulnerable all year, especially against the pass attack. So, and the Packers have receivers everywhere, minus Christian Watson. So yeah, I think I'm going to go with the Packers in this matchup pretty comfortably. Next up, Malik Neighbors, man. I said it before the season. That boy's a dog. I said the same thing about Jaden Daniels. Is that going to be enough to get the Giants past the Seahawks, though?
I mean, there's a reason I drafted him, too. I knew he's going to be a dog, Daniel Jones' best target ever, but it will not be enough to beat the Seahawks. Seahawks are a good team with good defense. They didn't play well last week because the Lions are dominant offense, but they will manhandle the Giants. Giants they're not winners. They've been losers for a long time now, and the Seahawks are a prideful organization with some really good players.
Yeah, Seahawks back at home coming off a tough game against the Lions that they maybe could have won, but Detroit's at home. That was kind of a bad game for them. But I think they'll bounce back this week. They're strong defensively. And like I said, again, they're at home. So especially with Kenneth Walker coming off those 3 touchdowns last week, I think Seattle will be just fine and get a victory at home.
I had Kenneth Walker for week 1. Didn't get him back to week 4. Welcome back, brother. 33 fantasy points. I love to see it. I think that he might be able to have another great night against the Giants. I just feel like the Seahawks, they have a lot of good weapons, man. I feel like their defense is solid, and it's just going to be overall, it's going to be too much for the Giants to handle. So I'm going to go with the Seahawks in this matchup. Ben and Nadash, this would have been a great matchup if I was still a Cowboys fan. But here we are, brother. The Steelers and the Cowboys. This is, I feel like, one of the biggest this is probably a must-win for the Cowboys, I feel like. And the Steelers, they can afford a loss at this point the way that they've been playing. But who's going to win and lose this game, B?
I mean, it would just be a kind of a shot to the Steelers' confidence if they lost a game where, Micah and DeMarcus Lawrence didn't play. It looks like, obviously, they're both not going to be playing for a month or something like that. I'm going to pick the Steelers and hope I'm right. I think, they have the formula to win this game at home. They put on a bad defensive performance last week, but I think, they'd bounce back, even though the Cowboys do have some playmakers. I think they're in the mix to possibly get Amari Cooper back, by the way, but obviously that wouldn't be this week because them being the pass-happy team they are and not really having a strong running game, they need to get some playmakers through the air. But I expect, it to be a close game, but the Steelers to win because they're at home and the Cowboys have those injuries on defense.
Yeah, as you mentioned, B, the Cowboys don't have a strong running game, so I'm going to go with Pittsburgh, and I feel like Pittsburgh's the wrong team to get pass happy against because you just have a menacing defense on the other side. You got T.J. Watt over there, so I think the Steelers will control the clock, really run the football with Fields and Najee Harris, who I think has kind of been struggling to start the year, but George Pickens has been excellent. Um, so I'm going to take the Steelers to win this one. They're at home. It's Sunday night. I feel like that crowd's going to be crazy. So I'm definitely going to go with the Steelers in this one.
Yep, ultimately gonna go with the Steelers as well in this one. I just love to see the Cowboys fail, man. It's just great to see. But actual analysis, I do think that just the Cowboys are really bad against the run, man. And I feel like the Steelers, if they get up early, they're gonna run the football a lot. And I feel like it doesn't even have to be who'd you say, Najee Harris? It doesn't have to be Najee Harris. I don't know if Jalen Warren's back this week, but Cordell Patterson is not bad, bro. He is not a bad running back. I honestly think that he's really underrated. He's been on a lot of different teams. He doesn't get a lot of use. He kind of reminds me of Deonta Foreman. He's a guy where if you give him the snaps, you give him the opportunities, he's going to produce. So I do feel like the Steelers' run game is good. And then there's this guy. Oh, man, what's his name? Oh, J.J. Watt. I'm thinking of T.J. Watt. Yeah, that guy. He's pretty good. He's pretty good defensively. So I feel like he's going to have a field day getting to the quarterback, man. And, yeah, I do feel like the Steelers will roll in this one. Last but not least, man, I just want to go ahead and put my condolences out to Rashee Rice, man. My season is probably over, if I'm being honest. Drafted Nico Collins, drafted Tyreek Hill, drafted Rashee Rice. I had 3 top 10 wide receivers. I am now cooked. Do you think that the Chiefs will be able to move forward? Are they going to trade for a wide receiver? What's going to happen in this one, be going forward as well, not even just the game?
I think they're going to try to trade for a wide receiver, but I don't know how many teams want to do business with the Chiefs because they're the Chiefs, you know what I mean? But, that would just be – I don't know what happened to Mitch there, but maybe that's just his sign of agreeing. But teams do not want to do business with them. I mean, they do not want to be part of the reason why they three-peated. But it is also kind of, interesting how Mahomes was the one who took out Rashee Rice. Incidentally, he's been throwing a pick in like every game. So I guess, he was angry trying to make a tackle and accidentally took out his number one wide receiver. Kind of crazy. But nevertheless, they are playing the Saints. I know the Saints are competitive, been playing better, but they're an NFC South team. And I do not think the Chiefs are capable of losing to an NFC South team, especially at home on Monday night. I really think just Mahomes and Andy Reid, the two of them combined, are dangerous enough that where if you just give them something to work with, they're going to figure out a way to beat you. And that's why I'm going to roll the Chiefs here.
Yeah, you guys might look at me crazy, but I might actually take the Saints in this one.
Wow.
Monday night game, the Saints are strong defensively, especially in the secondary. They got the Honey Badger, Marshawn Lattimore. They have a few solid guys in the secondary, and I just feel like with the Chiefs, especially with what they're lacking at receiver right now, like no real receiving threat. I know Mahomes is their quarterback. Like I'm not doubting Mahomes at all. I just feel like for this particular week, this particular game, the Saints could get the job done. They were a last-second field goal away from beating the Falcons last week. They could have beat the Eagles 2 weeks ago. So the Saints aren't a bad team, and they made a lot of improvements offensively. And I think Kamara and Olave will be the reason why they get the job done versus the Chiefs this week. So I'm actually going to go with the Saints in an upset here. I hope I'm not wrong, but I think the Saints will upset Kansas City this week.
I love the ballsy pick, Donald, but not going to follow that sentiment. Going to go with the Chiefs in this matchup. Kareem Hunt looked like he was pretty good in his return. And this is the return of Travis Kelce, man. If the Chiefs are not going to pick up another wide receiver, then it looks like Travis is going to be, right back in his number one receiver status, essentially, for the Chiefs. Obviously, they still have Xavier Worthy. Actually, I do – Donald, I see why you picked the Saints here because I just kind of went through the whole roster and they haven't really looked that good, if I'm being honest. But the Saints have been kind of up and down too. So ultimately, I am going to go with the better quarterback here, just the overall better team, the one I trust. It's the Chiefs, but I don't hate the pick of the Saints, and if it happens, I will be texting you. Great pick, brother. Anybody else have anything to add? Because that was the last matchup for this week.
Nah, just been a great first quarter of the season. I'm curious to see, where we are in 4 weeks. We'll be about halfway through the year. Wonder what teams will have fallen off or what teams will have picked up by then and who's kind of staying in the same boat that they're in right now.
Absolutely. We'll catch you guys next week for week 6, and I hope you guys enjoy week 5.